Welcome everyone. I'm Mayor Sundquist. This is the Director of Public Safety and Police Chief Harry Snellings. We appreciate you all being here today. We wanted to hold a press conference on the recent shootings in the city of Jamestown. This administration is more about transparency and dialogue with the community, and so we thought it was right to hold a meeting to talk about the shootings that have occurred in the last month or so. We will take questions after our presentation. I do want to point out, first and foremost, these are not random shootings, and there is not a larger danger to the community. These shootings have been targeted and centered around drugs and gang violence. I and the police department take these shootings very seriously, and that's why we're addressing the community. Our police officers are working diligently to solve these crimes and bring those responsible to justice. I don't want the public to remain in the dark on the details of these shootings. We're open to hearing the public's concerns and want to inform them of the efforts in these cases. It is essential that we do not deny that the problem exists by not saying anything publicly. By doing so would be a disservice to the community. More importantly, I am open to hearing concerns from the community and want the public to know that my door is always open. My office is here to help and address any and all concerns that the public has. I've asked Chief Snellings to speak generally about the shootings and police efforts, and afterwards we'll take a few questions. Chief Snellings?
Good morning. I'm Chief Snellings, S-N-E-L-L-I-N-G-S. Again, I just want to emphasize a couple of things that the mayor said. We both feel that it's very important that our community have a basic understanding of what's going on, and that we do take these incidents seriously, and that we're definitely putting every effort into resolving them. So I'll cover a couple of incidents that we've had in general terms. I know the Bullfrog shooting has garnered a lot of questions. What I will tell you is that our shooting victim has retained an attorney. We have made multiple attempts to interview our shooting victim through his attorney with no response. So we've taken that investigation and we've turned it over to the district attorney's office for further review and consideration. The most recent shooting on Hazard Street. Recently we put out a media release that talked about us recovering the vehicle that was directly involved in the shooting. During the course of that, we've been able to identify all the individuals involved, and it also led us to tie it into the Newland Street shooting on Christmas Day. So there's a link there. We are working with all our local and our federal partners to approach this on every angle that we can. Our shooting victim is still in stable condition, and once he has the ability to be interviewed, then we'll go down and interview our shooting victim. As far as that case goes, we really have nothing further. And then I guess we'll open it up to questions.
So for the Hazard Street and the Newland shootings, you say the suspects that were involved in that are known, they just aren't in custody?
Correct. Correct.
Is there a reason why they're not in custody?
Sure. Again, we have to interview a victim. As far as the Newland Street incident goes, it's the same old story. Lack of cooperation between witnesses and victims at that time. But what we've been able to discover as far as evidence in the Hazard Street, and I can't get into specifics, we've been able to tie the two incidents together. So we haven't made an arrest in that situation yet because we still have to interview the victim.
You notice?
Go ahead.
I said, you said a lot of these are targeted attacks, and some of these are linked. Is there any kind of motive behind all of these? Is it drugs, money? Is some underlying incident?
I would tell you that the Hazard and the Newland Street incident goes back several years, and they've been tied to previous shooting incidents. I can't get into specifics of motives because it's still an ongoing criminal investigation.
So these are almost retaliatory in nature?
Yes, that I'm comfortable saying.
One of the things I was going to ask, because the mayor brought it up, the fact that you're relating here, there's some gang violence and activity going on. Do we have a couple of warring factions? Do we have
Well, again, I don't want to get
Several.
into specifics of that case, but I can tell you in general terms that we do have the presence of gang members. A lot of them are transient, they come and go from Buffalo and some other areas, but we quite frequently get gang members from Buffalo, and you know, the drug market is here, and that's why we see a lot of that. And there's a clash between our local residents and then our we'll say our visitors.
For the general public, whenever you mention the phrase gangs, people
Correct.
get a little concerned, rightly so. What assurance can you give them that this isn't something that is a detriment to public safety with the number of incidents like this occurring?
Well, again, I mean, I'm cautious saying that there's no danger because there's always collateral damage. I mean, you could be driving down the wrong street at the wrong time. But again, we're fortunate that we're small enough that when we do have visitors and they start getting involved in criminal activity, they tend to stand out because they're not locals that we frequently deal with. So, you know, they get our full attention, and we try to work every angle. And what I mean by that is, you know, we research: are they wanted on probation violations? Are they on parole? And are they violating their restrictions? There's a lot of different, you know, approaches that we do because one of the challenges, especially when you deal with the drug trade or you deal with gang members, is a lack of cooperation. And that's not something unique to us. You see it all the time in the media throughout our region. It's not just here.
Any update on the Tony Dubauer?
That's the Bullfrog.
That's Bullfrog?
Correct.
I guess, what do you request from the public, either from the mayor's office or the police department?
I'll approach that first, and then I'll turn it back over to the mayor. Like we always do, again, if you have any information, video has been key. You know, we do a lot of neighborhood canvases because a lot of people do have video cameras, and that's definitely been instrumental in a couple of these. But if you've seen something, you have that video, please contact us. You can remain anonymous to an extent. The new discovery laws create a challenge. And we do have to turn over that information at some point, but you know, we'll work with that. Mayor?
Do we have a tip line?
Yes, we do. Our tip line's the same. It's 483-TIPS. You can call. You can be anonymous. And again, our Tip 411 app. You can also, I mean, from your smartphone, and also online. The Tip 411 is also accessible online.
Have you stepped up patrols in those areas with hazard and Newland?
You know, we all the information we put out daily field intelligence reports to make our patrol areas aware. That incident at Newland, I will tell you, is just because they were traveling through that area. They don't reside in that area. So we make all our patrol areas aware of what's going on, whether it's who the suspects are, whether they're the vehicles. If we do have a known area, and that's part of our initiative back with our targeted enforcement details, we will flex them out if necessary. Mayor.
Great. From our office, as I said earlier, we are open to any discussion the public wants to have. They can simply call our office. If they are tip related, we ask that you call the police department directly. Anything we receive in our office, we will forward directly to the Jamestown Police Department. But we wanted to reassure the public that we are actively investigating these, that we are working, and more importantly, that we are starting a dialogue with the community. If there is discussions that want to be had, or if there are certain groups or even neighborhood watch groups that are getting together, please let us know. We want to engage in that dialogue, and we want to make sure that the public is aware that we're actively working to ensure these things do not happen on our city streets.
I guess I have a follow-up on that with Harry, because I know there are several neighborhood watch groups in the community. Have you been actively engaging them in this matter?
You know, the neighborhood watch groups are kind of unique. Some are more active than others. Obviously, if they have any questions, then of course we participate. But a lot of that it falls on them.
Chief, just in regards to bail reform, I know sometimes if you had a suspect in mind that you might be able to get them on another charge while you're investigating a more serious charge, and you keep them in custody and then you can file charges. Is that something that's frustrating now because you can't do that in this case?
Great point, Jason. We've always used that approach in the past. And again, in general terms, when we're dealing with people that are in the drug trade, we've been able to lock them up, whether to quell the situation or give us more opportunity to thoroughly investigate so we can get an arrest. under the bail reform, the drug, at least the drug side of it, it's non-existent. Because if I arrest you on a drug charge, you will be arraigned and you're automatically released. Because all drug charges, whether it's a minor possession all the way up to multiple kilos, you're automatically released. And it is concerning. So it takes that away from us as a tool to basically incarcerate people to address it, and again, in multiple different ways.
I'm not trying to get too far afield here, but as far as the drug issue in the city, is it mainly meth now? Is it still heroin, or?
No, I think you've seen over the last couple of years, we've, and I hate to say, but transitioned to methamphetamine. Methamphetamine and powdered cocaine still continues to be our primary drug here in the city. We actually have seen an increase in fentanyl, which we've been somewhat immune to over the last few years. But fentanyl is being found in a lot of the drugs. It's being cut in methamphetamine. We've also found it in cocaine. So it is a concern.
Your tips lines, are you still getting tips? You mentioned the cooperation issue.
Yes.
I think it's important maybe to convey to the public that, this is something you can do confidential.
Yeah, again, our tips line is very active. We thought once we got the app and the online, our phone tips line is actually the #1 producer of tips for us. And we put out the initial press release. We did get quite a few phone calls. We actually were able to review a video that potentially was related, but through investigation we were able to clear it up and it wasn't. But again, we want to encourage our community, regardless if they think it's important or not, to please contact us and let us make that determination.
Any other questions?